You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
End of its last 11 playoff games. The Royals clipped the Orioles 1-0 in Baltimore, and in Houston, the Tigers beat the Astros 3-1.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show, this Wednesday Hump Day edition for October 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is producing the program this morning, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. We got a great show on tap for you today. Busy show. As Drew DeArmond couldn't be with us yesterday, so we've rescheduled him among our other guests, which we'll get to in just a second. First, though, I need to tell you, as always, this first hour of the program being brought to you by my good friends at Alabama Credit Union. Discover the heart and soul of our member-owned credit union, empowering our members, enriching our community. Alabama Credit Union is more than just a financial institution. It's a member-owned community, deeply rooted in rich historical values. Our central focus is empowering members, driving us to positively impact the community through financial success. That sounds like something you would be interested in. Find out more at alabamacu.com or get by and see them at one of their many locations around the state of Alabama. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, the lineup for today, Matt Coulter on NASCAR at 9:30. Looking forward to that segment. It's Talladega week. The Yellowwood 500 coming up on Sunday, and it is going to be a beauty of a race. Playoff race, a lot on the line at Talladega. We'll have the NASCAR update at 9:30. Then Drew DeArmond, the Rocket Man, will join us at 10 after not being available to join us yesterday. And then at 10:30, it's Larry the Music Man. So we are loaded with guests, also loaded with content. Clark Lee, the Vanderbilt head football coach, his Commodores getting ready to host number one ranked Alabama this Saturday afternoon at 3:15 at Bank First Stadium in Nashville. He had his press conference yesterday, and we will have some of that audio for you this morning as the Vanderbilt head coach talks about facing the Crimson Tide and his respect for Kalen DeBoer. They've got a connection that he will talk about when we hear from him this morning as well. As I said, your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. We would love to hear from you. Major League Baseball playoffs underway. And the Braves, we knew it was going to be rough after playing a doubleheader on Monday, flying out to San Diego late Monday night, having to turn around and play last night out on the West Coast and not having really any starting pitching. Chris Sale will not play at all in this wild card series. And would have been nice to have him healthy, then he could have started that game last night. And the Braves just, they weren't able to do it. They had to piece together pitching, although I'll be honest with you, pitching wasn't awful. I mean, they only gave up 4 runs, but just short of quality arms, kind of using guys that are more or less prospects. And they started A.J. Smith-Shawver, who they believe is going to be a really fine pitcher, but he didn't have it. I mean, really, the Padres got 3 runs in the first 2 innings. They got 2 in the first and 1 in the second, and they didn't score again until the 8th. They only had 5 hits, Padres, but they hit the long ball. Braves actually pieced together 7 hits, but couldn't score a run, and their starter was absolutely phenomenal. Michael King, well, he put on a clinic last night for the Padres against the Braves. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, no earned runs, 12 Ks, no walks. He absolutely befuddled Atlanta. So the Braves lose 4-0, which means they have to win tonight or they're done. This is the best 2 out of 3 series. They have to win to force a third game on Thursday. The good news is they're going to be in a little bit better shape pitching-wise. And that's going to give them a chance to win this game tonight. And then if you win tonight, then it's just a one-game series to advance. I mean, that's just as simple as it is. But no Chris Sale, just stinks. Braves injuries continuing. And that's going to make it rough. I mean, that's just, and I heard Barry and Tom talking about me on their show about what I said about the Braves. All I said was it would be disappointing if the Braves didn't make the playoffs. And it would have been, regardless of the situation. It would have been disappointing. It's disappointing they had all the injuries. I didn't necessarily say that I would understand why they didn't make it, but if they had not made the playoffs, it would have been disappointing. They did. I don't think they're going to win this series, even though Max Fried goes tonight, so they are set up tonight if he can have a good start to have a chance. But it would have been disappointing. But anyway, the Braves fall to the Padres 4-0, forcing a more must-win game. Also in the playoffs last night as the wild card round got underway. Tigers keep it going, man. They go into Houston and beat the Astros 3-1 in game 1 of that series. The Royals, man, this one, what a game. 1-0. The Royals win at Baltimore. Both teams had 5 hits. The Mets keep it going. They're red hot. They rallied. They were down early in that one, but beat the Brewers 8-4. Brewers can't win a playoff game, and as we mentioned, the Padres beat the Braves 4-0. All right, phone calls are starting to roll in on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. Roland is going to lead us off, and then we'll get to Tom. Good morning, Roland. How are you?
Hey, Gary, I'm fine. Hope you're doing well this morning. I want to say what an amazing game it was Saturday night, but I want to ask you a question about baseball, if that's okay.
Sure.
What happened on this Braves Mets thing? I tried to ask Drew yesterday on his show, and I guess he didn't understand the question, or he got his facts wrong. But it's my understanding that with the weather coming in last week, that they could have played a doubleheader on Monday because both teams was off Monday. And for whatever reason they didn't, they played the Tuesday game. Then, of course, the Wednesday and Thursday game got postponed because of the hurricane. But, people last week questioned why the game didn't get played, the 2 games didn't get played on Monday, and they didn't. And my question is was that a Braves decision? Was that a Major League Baseball decision? And if you've seen the owner of and I don't blame him, owner of the Diamondbacks, he was upset because the doubleheaders played, Monday, and the Diamondbacks had to have one of the teams lose both games, which after the Mets won, which he knew it would happen. After the Mets won, they didn't have no desire to win that second game. They rested some starters and probably started a pitcher that they wasn't going to pitch very much and so on. And of course, the Braves won 4-0. And like on the play in the 9th inning, it showed on replay where the Braves turned a doubleheader. The guy at first was actually safe, and the Mets didn't challenge it, which I don't blame. I wouldn't either. I would have played it the same way the Mets did. But the integrity of the game, I thought, was kind of lost by that. Them not playing the doubleheader.
Okay, well, let me address it. I know exactly what you're saying. And, it would have made more sense to me to knowing the weather was coming in to, like you said, played a doubleheader on Monday, the off day, and then played a game on Tuesday and gotten that series over with. But I think both teams have to agree to that. It was the Braves' home series. My understanding is they did not want to move the series up. And Major League Baseball, I guess, didn't override that. So, what I read was the Braves wanted to keep the series as scheduled. And so they played that single game on Tuesday, and then the other two games got washed out, and they came back to play the doubleheader on Monday. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if I'm the Diamondbacks, I'm upset too, because whoever won that first game, and it was the Mets, 8-7, probably was not going to have a full complement of its players to go in the second game. So, but, the integrity of baseball has been compromised before. This isn't the first time. It won't be the last. The playoffs the Braves are compromised now because it's like Barry and Tom were talking about. They had to play a doubleheader on Monday and then fly out to San Diego, got in late Monday night or early Tuesday morning, and had to turn around and play last night with no pitching. So, it is what it is. I agree with you, Roland, but at the same time, that's the decision that was made. And if, I understand the Arizona Diamondbacks being upset, but they should have won one more game. If they'd have won one more game, then they wouldn't have had to worry about it. And, they were ahead of the Braves right until the end. So I get what you're saying. At the same time, it is what it is. That was what was put in place. And, if the Diamondbacks should, are upset, they should have been more upset at themselves that they couldn't hold that lead. They'd had a one-game, lead rather than being tied, then they would have gotten in. So, that's the way I look at it.
Well, to me, it hurt the Braves as much as anybody by not doing that last week, because then it messed up the pitching.
Well, yeah, I agree. That's what I just said. But that's what, they didn't want to move it, Roland. So they hurt themselves if that's the case. I mean.
So that was my question. That's my question. Who made the decision? I guess it was the Braves, right?
Well, they didn't want to move it from what I'm told. They did not want to move the series up. Now, could Major League Baseball have overridden that? I don't know. Maybe they could have. But that was the decision that was made, and that's, what they knew the situation was going to be once they played that game on Tuesday. They weren't going to be able to play those other two games, and if they had to, they were going to come back on Monday. Now, the Mets and the Diamondbacks both had a lead over the Braves at that point. So if they'd have held the lead, it wouldn't have mattered. So, it is, like I said, it just kind of is what it is.
One quick question before I let you go. Are you going to have any recruiting analysts on the show anytime soon?
Well, Drew's going to be on today, and, he follows it pretty closely. We'll ask him about coming out of the Georgia weekend, what all is going on. But I may try to get Bone on again here soon. I'm going to work on it, but we'll ask Drew a couple recruiting questions today too.
Yeah, as my question was, kind of what come out of the weekend and what we might see ahead as far as any commitments, But anyway, Gary, I appreciate you clearing it up for me.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate you. All right, let's keep it going here and go ahead and get to Tom. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary, thanks for taking my call. I had something I wanted you to ask Drew about, if you don't mind, when he comes on, and it's about the three guests that Coach Oates had at the Georgia game. Basketball players, the number one player in the country, I believe, is one of them, and the other two were top 25 players. Would you talk to him about that? I know football's at the front, but I kind of wanted to know what those kids were thinking. They looked like they were having fun.
I think they had a blast. Yeah, I was planning on asking him about it anyway. So.
Oh, good. Yeah. I just wanted to be sure. You know what I mean?
Well, I caught you on Barry and Wimp show this morning saying,
I guess
around what I said a little bit. What I said was...
Maybe I misunderstood you.
Yeah, I said it would be disappointing if the Braves didn't make it. And it would have been. It's disappointing they had all the injuries. I mean, I would have certainly understood why they didn't make it. But regardless, when you have a roster built to win a World Series and you don't make the postseason, that would have been disappointing, regardless of the circumstances, in my opinion. But they made it.
I misunderstood you. I thought your point was because they're a major league team with a farm system, that shouldn't affect them.
Well, I still know it affected them. Obviously, it affected them. Had they had those injuries, they might have won the division. I still think they should have made the playoffs. I still think they had a good enough team to make it, and they did. So
they did.
So I give them credit for that.
But it's really a moot point at this point, because I was saying the bar was just get into playoffs and see what happens. And you were saying it should have been anyway, but I misunderstood you.
Well, if they'd had Chris Sale available, then last night might have been different. Although I don't know if anybody was going to get to King last night the way he was pitching. But
that's dadgum. The Padres are so freaky. I'd rather lose to the Astros than to lose to them.
Well, maybe they'll come back tonight. Braves come back and get a win.
I guess. See you.
Thank you. All right, we need to get to the break. It's 9:15 here on the Gary Harris Show. This hour being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Matt Coulter on NASCAR coming up at 9:30. Phillips ready to hit us on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. We'll get to him on the other side. You're welcome to call in as well, 205-342-9904. Drew DeArmond, as we mentioned, we'll talk some recruiting with him at 10 o'clock. This is the Gary Harris Show, and we'll be right back after this.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. CVS Health, which has several locations across West Alabama, is cutting nearly 3,000 jobs in an effort to slash cost. That's less than 1% of the company's workforce, and it's not expected to impact jobs at stores or in distribution centers. Most jobs cut will be at the corporate.
Live from Walk On Sports Bistro for Hillcrest Huddle. That's Brent Jones each week as the Hillcrest Patriots march towards the playoffs.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m., get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Parallel.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and
you'll actually talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a warm afternoon, the high 85. Tonight fair with the low at 63. Tomorrow partially sunny, the high 86. Friday, a mix of sun and clouds, a few isolated showers around, the high 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 71 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama!
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, it's 9:19. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Matt Coulter on NASCAR coming up. Interesting segment as we look ahead to the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega. Also, non-playoff drivers winning these races. It happened again this past Sunday at Kansas. It's interesting. And a lot of fans don't know how to feel about it. We'll discuss that as well. Right now, we're jumping back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and Philip is with us. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Gary. I tell you, out of all the plays the other night that were exciting and just highlight makers and all that, one of my favorite plays the other night was a little mundane play. It was a 3rd and 4, I think. Alabama had the ball on Georgia's 36-yard line. Well, had the ball on Georgia's 40-yard line. And Milrose sort of did that little look to the sideline. He took a few steps toward the sideline, and the ball got snapped to Jam Miller, and he got the first down. Next play, Jalen runs 36 yards for a TD. That was I don't think that was a busted play. I think it was a true play.
Yeah, it was. The first half was a play calling and offensive clinic by Alabama. There's no other way around it, particularly the first quarter. They really put Georgia on their heels defensively, and also the Georgia offense was, Carson Beck was just bewildered. The first half was, particularly the first quarter, was just a clinic by Alabama. And then, give Georgia credit. They made in-game adjustments. They figured out what was going on, and they got themselves back in the game, obviously.
Right. Gary, do you remember, what's the last game you remember where Alabama won with a defensive play like that?
You can't put me on the spot like that. I mean, obviously, I go back to the 92 SEC championship game against Florida is the big one that jumps out with Antonio Langham.
That's true.
Against Florida, but I mean, I don't you've called it a defensive play, but it is defensive because the other team was kicking. Cody's block of the field goal against Tennessee in 2009 to win that game.
One that I compare it to a little bit favorably because I think our player was in the end zone when he caught the pick, just like it was the other night. When Tommy Wilcox picked off John Bond. Yeah,
that was 1981 in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Mississippi State had beaten Alabama the year before, and you're right, was driving to beat them again. And was inside, I think, the 10-yard line, and I think the ball might have got tipped by Eddie Lowe. I can't remember for sure, but Wilcox picked it off to win that game. Yeah, because they were about to lose not once to Mississippi State, but twice in a row. So that was another one. And there have been others, if I had more time to think about it, I'm sure. Of course, Saban didn't play that many close games at Alabama, but I'm sure one of those close ones along the line. Of course, you think about, obviously, a lot of the offense winning some close games. And grab that phone, Chase.
Well, I hope, hopefully, Saturday, I'm like you and Rip. I think that game Saturday night could be a little bit uneasy and a little bit stressful, but I hope Alabama can get their running game going.
Yeah, I think they will. Listen, as I said, they had a purpose and a reason for the offensive game plan that they had. They saw, I think, obviously it worked, that they could get Milroe out on the perimeter in the run game and really feature him against Georgia. I think in this game you'll see them go back to more of a traditional running attack with their backs. And I'm with you. If you don't have a good week of practice and preparation, you could be in for a ball game on Saturday. I think they will. I think this team and this coaching staff understands that this is an SEC game on the road, even though Alabama will have a ton of fans there. And I think they'll do what they need to do this week to get themselves ready. And if they're ready to go, I think they're going to win the game regardless, even if let's say if they go up there and they're sloppy. But you'd much rather go up there and be sharp, kind of like they were at Wisconsin, and get on top early on the road and go ahead and put that thing away. Because Diego Pavia he's a problem at quarterback for Vanderbilt now. He's made them a different team. He's a competitor. He's tough. He's physical. He's a gamer. And, they're going to have to deal with him.
Yeah, he can throw it. He can throw it.
He can. He can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. And but anyway, Gary, good talking to you, and roll tide.
Thank you, Philip. Always a pleasure to hear from you. All right, let's keep it rolling, and we're going to get to Bryce. Hey, good morning, Bryce. Bryce, you with me? Chase, what's going on there? Hang on, Bryce, you there? All right, lost Bryce. I'll drop it and he'll call back in. We got time to get him in before the break. But getting back to the Vanderbilt game, and as I said, we're going to hear from Clark Lee. Going to try to squeeze him in this morning. That's a team that's 2-2, but they feel like they should be unbeaten. They got off to the fast start, won their first two games, beat a pretty good Virginia Tech team, which was an upset. Went to Atlanta to play Georgia State in a game I thought they would win. They were behind. They took the lead, and then late in the game, 30 seconds or so, they gave up a pass to lose. And then we know they went to Missouri and could have won that game over a top 10 unbeaten team. And now they're coming off a bye. So not only are they hosting Alabama in Nashville, but they're coming off a bye. So they'll, you would think, be ready to have some new wrinkles and looks themselves for this game against the Crimson Tide on Saturday afternoon. So you never, ever, when you're playing a conference opponent, take anything for granted. So, again, I've continued to say this, and I'll continue to stress it. These games really aren't won on Saturday. They're won during the week. And Saturday is just a product of what you do during the week in terms of your practice and preparation. And if it's good and you're the better team, and Alabama's a better team than Vanderbilt, and you have a good week of practice and preparation and you're dialed in and you're ready to go, you're going to win the game. If you don't have a good week of practice and preparation, you may still win the game. But if you don't, there's a chance you could get upset. And that's kind of what you hope Alabama avoids. You hope that this week they put in the time and the effort just like they have for every other opponent, and they go to Nashville on Saturday afternoon and they make a statement as the number one team. When you're the number one team, there's a bullseye. Not that there's not a bullseye already on Alabama, but it's even bigger now because not only is it Alabama, but Alabama's number one again for the first time in nearly 2 years. I mean, right at 2 years. And that's surprising when you think about it. The last time that they were number one was 2022. And then last year, never, ever got to number one. And then, of course, lost early to Texas and never could get back to number one. Of course, had they won those final two games, they would have finished number one. But they went into the playoff, Michigan was number one. So, but they're back at number one now, and that's going to give Vanderbilt even more incentive to try to go out and shock the world. So you've always got the bullseye on your back if you're Bama, but when you're Bama and you're carrying that number one ranking, opponents are even more dialed in. All right, I don't know what happened to Bryce, but we got to move on. We're going to get to our break and come back with Matt Coulter on NASCAR. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, I was in there yesterday working out, talked to Jeff Knox briefly, the CEO. They're fired up for fall, and it's a great time to get in the gym. The weather's getting a little bit cooler. Holidays are here, and a lot of people I know will say, well, I'm not going to be eating as healthy. That's even more incentive, I think, to get in the gym, to kind of try to counterbalance the fact that your eating habits may change during the fall football season and the holidays, and you may allow yourself some liberties that you don't take during other parts of the year. So if that's the case, then get in the Y to kind of try to keep that physical activity going. Beautiful facility, great equipment, terrific personal training. Everything you need is at the YMCA.
It's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for our NASCAR report with Matt Coulter. Not just any NASCAR report. We're getting ready for a playoff race at Talladega Superspeedway, the Yellowwood 500. So a little more special this week with NASCAR coming back to Talladega, the world's fastest speedway, for the second time, and coming off an interesting race at Kansas. Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Well, I'm still recovering from Saturday night's Alabama-Georgia game. I'm a little miffed at my Braves and Snitcher's decision to start that 21-year-old kid. But then again, on the other side, all that's behind us. I am jacked up on Mountain Dew from Talladega Nights and ready for a great weekend at the world's most competitive track. I'm excited. This is a good week for us.
Oh, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Before we get to Talladega, we're going to recap the Hollywood Casino 400 presented by ESPN Bet at Kansas. And what comes out of that for me, and I think a lot of fans, is, Kyle Busch had kind of said it, and that's that these non-playoff drivers aren't going to go out there and just run laps. They're out there to win. No. And also, I think it's pointed out, and Kyle Petty's pointed it out, and Denny Hamlin's talked about it, that it's, we're talking about Georgia being down 30-7 at the half and how that freed them up just to go out there and play in the second half and go for it every fourth down. A lot of the playoff drivers are saying, hey, these guys that aren't in the playoffs, they're freed up. They're not worried about stage points. They're not worried about positioning. They're just going for the wins. And we've had 4 playoff races, and 2 of them won by non-playoff drivers, the latest being Ross Chastain. What do you make of it, Matt?
Well, I don't like it, but I don't know what to do about it. I mean, these guys have their charters. They have every right in the world to try and race for the win. I think the one thing that it does bother me is when you come up on lap traffic and somebody that's not even in the playoff chase tries to hang you up, you know. And I know they're trying to win, but come on, there's just certain rules of engagement here. But Ross Chastain wanted to win that race. It's what do you do, Gary? Do you separate them, have different races? Do you get to the point where you only have 4 cars on the track the last few races? I don't have a solution, but I sure understand the frustration, and there are a lot of drivers that are expressing it.
Yeah, it's become, because as you have alluded to on the show before, there was an unwritten rule for a while, but the playoff structure was different in those days too. That if you weren't in the playoffs, like you said, you didn't block a playoff driver. You understood where you stood, and it seemed like most of the races were won by playoff drivers. As I said, you know, Kyle Busch kind of made a statement going into the playoffs. I think in that all the non-playoff drivers kind of following that up. Like you said, we're racing too. And it ultimately, it's on NASCAR. And I'm not saying there's anything you can do about it, but, you know, I've discussed this many times. Every other sport, the playoffs are the playoffs. You know, you're either in the playoffs or you're sitting at home. You know, it's set up for this because playoff drivers are competing with playoff drivers and non-playoff drivers. It's the only sport that does it that way. So, and now, as you said, with the sponsorship money and charters and drivers driving for their livelihood, they're not, and, you know, especially a guy like Chastain, who's one of the most aggressive drivers out there, too bad you're in the playoff, you know? I mean, you know, Kyle Petty pretty much said it was embarrassing that these playoff drivers aren't performing better. And then Denny Hamlin came back and just said, you know, what we're talking about, said, well, you know, they got a huge advantage, the non-playoff drivers. I mean, they got nothing to lose. And, you know, and playoff drivers, whether you like it or not, get more conservative once they're in the playoffs because you can't rent cars.
That's a key point. I'm glad you brought that up. And also the fact that you got sponsors, and they deserve to be on the side of that car, whether or not you're in the playoffs. And yes, and I read some quotes yesterday from drivers that said, yeah, heck yes, we're driving more, you know, conservative. We can't get a DNF, you know? Mm-hmm. DNF is just about take you out of the playoffs. So it's a pile of coat hangers, and we'll see what NASCAR, if they do anything going into 2025. But I know one thing, it's been an exciting year with Talladega coming up, and NASCAR certainly, I think it's on the rebound and has been for the last 3 or 4 years since COVID as far as its popularity. TV ratings are up. So, you know, it certainly has its warts, but, man, it also has the shiny side.
Well, for NASCAR's race at Kansas, I had Kyle Larson and you had Denny Hamlin. So you have the first pick this week, which we'll get to in a moment. But, of course, neither one of those guys won as Ross Chastain took home the checkered. All right, now, not that many people for this track need the track report, but for some people maybe that aren't familiar with NASCAR, this is the world's fastest speedway, and it is the longest speedway, and is 500 miles that go by very, very fast if there aren't any cautions. Give us the track report.
It's 2.66-mile oval, and corners, it's 33-degree banking. That's the highest banking in all of NASCAR. Daytona's 31. I think Bristol's around that, too. It's asphalt. It is the most competitive track. For years and years and years, it was the fastest track. If you remember, wasn't terribly long ago that every driver in the field qualified at 200-plus miles per hour. Of course, then you had the Bobby Allison incident, and then here came the restrictor plates. And you can understand that. And by the way, I will note this. I can't go into great detail because I'm not looking at it, but they made some changes for Talladega with some of the roof alignments and the aerodynamics and stuff like that to try and keep cars from getting airborne. I just thought of that while I was talking. I wanted to mention that as well. The winningest driver at this track is, you know, the Intimidator. They say he could see air, and that's Dale Earnhardt Sr. Of course, his son won a few times here as well. But it's a great race. I urge you to get tickets and you got truck race and then the Xfinity race and then the Cup Series on Sunday. So if you just kind of want to dip your toe into the water, go Friday afternoon or on Saturday. The track is very, very busy. It's a whole lot of fun. And if you've never been, I urge you at least go once.
Yeah, and this might be a good Sunday to go. You've got Alabama in Nashville for a Saturday afternoon game, not that far away. So even if you go to the game, it's one of those things where you could stay in Nashville on Saturday night and get up and drive to Talladega on Sunday morning if you wanted to. And obviously, if you don't go to the game, then you're already here in the States. So what is your feeling? How are tickets moving, and how big a crowd do you think that they're going to have Sunday afternoon?
Well,
there's going to be great.
The spring race is the big draw,
right.
And that's the races in the past where we've almost hit 200,000 people. So this race and football season, the fall, all that kind of stuff is not the highest attended of the two races at Talladega. But I know there's a buzz about it. I think there'll be a sizable crowd, and the fact that they're doing Trucks Xfinity and the Cup Series over a 48-hour period, there'll be collectively a whole lot of fans that'll be there.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice crowd. All right, let's kind of start handicapping this thing, and you get the first pick. I'm it's a little bit of a wild card track because of the speeds. Sometimes these lower ranked teams can find some horsepower. We've seen some surprising winners at Talladega. You've got the playoff drivers now, as we're only 2 races away from another cut. You've got the Yellowwood 500, then you got the Roval up at Charlotte, and then you cut it down from 12 to 8. So these 2 races are critical for the playoff drivers. We know non-playoff drivers are trying to win races, so you expect the big one anyway, so it could be crazy. Go ahead, your pick first this week, Matt, and tell us who you got.
Because of Talladega's propensity to have a rather large incident, I really am going to be very curious of something we discussed just a little while ago. That's how conservative the playoff drivers are going to be here, because you can get involved in the big one early, and man, you're not going to be around in November.
That's right.
But anyway, I just want to throw that in there real quick. Oh, my pick. I've been going over it all morning. And I'll ask you this question because I'm pretty sure you'll know the answer. Since 2020, there's only been one driver that has won more than once.
Oh, you put me on.
That's my pick.
Okay.
Ryan Blaney.
Yeah,
I'm going to take your man.
No, it was my man. I didn't even realize. I didn't think about him winning twice. But I'm definitely going forward and on this track, and I'm going playoff driver. So, yeah, Blaney was going to be my pick, but that's okay. You had the first pick. So, that makes me think about possibly Keselowski, even though he's out.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I'll do, because I already made up my mind. I was taking Blaney. Hendrick could be a factor here too, but let's keep it in the family. I think the Penske team is going to be strong here. So if you're going to take Blaney, I'll take the other guy, and I'll take Logano. I'll take the 22 then, and we'll see if the 22 and 12 can. And with what's on the line, I don't know if they'll be as friendly to each other if they're 1-2 in this one as they have been in some other races. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be, and as I was thinking about this morning, even though Jeff Payton, by the way, thank you, Jeff, for all you do, keeps us up to date, I'd kind of forgotten on who goes first. So I was going through my mind, if I go first, I'll pick this. If I go second, I'll pick this. And we did exactly what I thought we would do. Had you gotten the first pick, I would have taken Logano too. So,
yeah, we're going to take the Penske cars. I do think this. I think Chase Elliott's going to be a factor in this race. And if I wasn't going to go Penske, I would probably look strongly at Chase Elliott. Just the Elliott family, at tradition there.
History.
And I just have a good vibe that he's going to be strong here, because listen, we've talked about it. He's back being good, but it's a little bit like Justin Thomas. He's fallen off a little, and he has not gotten back to the level that he was at pre-snowboard incident or whatever that was. So, but this might be the Sunday for him. But no, I think Penske's going to have the horsepower, and I like the 12 better than I like the 22. But we'll see.
We will indeed. I'm happy with my pick, and glad I got to go first. But we took chalk last week.
Yeah, and
with Hamlin and Larson, and man, they were never really a factor.
Pitiful,
of course,
pitiful.
There was some criticism over how they ended up on the sidelines or not being a factor, but we'll see. Hey, I want to mention before we go to the Talladega Superspeedway website to get your tickets. Also, Talladega is really good about doing things like this in critical times, and if you go outside the track in turn 3, you can also look this up on their website, as I just mentioned. They're taking donation for those who were, golly, you just keep reading about Helene and what she did to, not just Florida, but North Carolina is just in horrible shape. But you can make your donation, bring water, canned goods, and of course you can make donations too. But I wanted to tell everybody that because I just think it's another thing where Talladega steps up, and that'll be a cool thing among the many things that are going to be going on over the next through Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Hurricane relief donations, drop-off locations outside of Turn 3 tunnel near the Dega Depot. Location will be open Thursday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then on Sunday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And yes, I know there's some major efforts all over the Southeast to help out these hurricane victims, and Talladega is doing its part. And I know, right here in Tuscaloosa, Northport, Bobby Miller's got a drive going. So, Bobby Herndon, I should say, has got a drive going. So a lot happening as far as helping out, and Talladega is going to do its part. Real quickly, Matt, before we let you go, what is your itinerary the next few days? I know you're going to be cranking up.
Well, I actually started yesterday. Went to Cumulus stations over here and laid down a bunch of tracks that run on the PA, commercial reads. So it's already started. Then I've got, I'll go over Thursday. I've got meetings Thursday afternoon and evening. I'll take care of that. And, of course, Friday with the truck race, I'll be busy. I do a lot of they do a thing with children where the children get to ride buses around. They feed them lunch, stuff like that. And I kind of host that event for the track. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'll be busy doing a lot of driver interviews. And it's a good time. It's a lot of work. I don't even call it work. A lot of responsibilities, and I love every minute of it. 33, going my 34th year.
All right, Matt, great stuff. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you having me on and doing this, supporting Talladega. We all do very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, it is 9:46 here, and also, as we said, Bobby Herndon, former mayor of Northport, is putting together a hurricane relief package as well, and we might even try to get him on the radio here. I know he's going to be on some of the other Town Square stations to talk about that. It's 9:47 here on the Gary Harris Show. We are going to take a time out and be back with more on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show, powered by Box Eye Care. As Martin and Xavier will add you to the conversation on the Empowerment Strategy and Solutions Hotline at 205-342-9904. We'll talk a little recruiting. We'll also take an inside look at the Vanderbilt Commodores and continue to break down what's next and how this Alabama football team continues to improve right here on your home.
ABC. It's all powered by Townsend Honda. For more details on how to win cash, tap that free Tide app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hour.
Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-5500. 3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy
for better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a warm afternoon, the high 85. Tonight fair with the low at 63. Tomorrow partially sunny, the high 86. Friday, a mix of sun and clouds, a few isolated showers around, the high 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 72 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:50. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lea met with the media yesterday in Nashville to preview the upcoming game against Alabama. And we're going to play about 5 minutes of that for you right now. Here's we close out this first segment of the show. Here's Clark Lea.
All right. Glad to be back in game week. I think we had a productive bye, and I think any chance to reset, recharge, to try to get a little bit healthier and kind of set our sights on the next stretch ahead. We got a 6-game run here that's going to be challenging but a lot of fun, and starts with a great opponent in Alabama. You know, anytime you can welcome a number 1 ranked team into your home stadium, again, you face a great challenge, but with a great challenge is a great opportunity, and a chance for us to measure ourselves against the best in the league. Have a ton of respect for Kalen DeBoer, a guy that I go back with to my South Dakota days. Has always been someone that I admired and felt like does things the right way. Obviously an excellent football coach who has positioned his team to again, to be at the top of the country. So excited for the opportunity. I know our players are excited too. I think we've been a spirited team and a competitive team. So not surprised that they're looking forward to the opportunity that awaits this week. And what my message to them has been is we can't skip any steps. So this is about getting everything we can get out of our process to best position ourselves to make the plays that we'll need to make to win a game on Saturday. And again, we're excited to be back home, refreshed from the bye, and looking forward to a great week and a great weekend. So with that, I'm happy to open up for questions.
So were you at South Dakota in Sioux Falls?
I was at South Dakota State, and that was my first full-time job. So I think we're both still pretty young, if I could say that. But we were certainly young then. And Kalen had already built a great reputation as a head coach. And I used to see him at clinics. And, it's been a lot of fun to follow his career because I admire the way he worked his way up through the ranks. And, he was always someone that stood out as a good person first, and like a really skilled football coach. And I think he's every step along the way he's proven that both of those things to be true. And obviously off to a great start at Alabama.
Offensively, just look kind of the same for you going forward. Just grind out clock, let Diego make plays, or is anything you guys maybe look to do a little differently, better going forward?
Well, grinding out the clock is a part of the strategy, but so is taking shots and being an explosive offense too. For us, we're not gonna start outside of our identity. So we want to establish a physical run game, and we want to allow for Diego opportunities to create and to keep us on schedule. But again, if you look at that first drive in the Missouri game where we went 1st and 10 to 2nd and 5, then had a procedural penalty that put us to 2nd and 10, and then a fumbled pitch that put us to 3rd and 17. That's not going to be a formula for us. I think the second drive, if I'm not mistaken, started the same 1st and 10, 2nd and 5 to a conversion, set up another conversion, and the 5th play into that drive was a long pass to Joe McVay. That's what our offense wants to be. We have capable players to stretch the field vertically. Diego has shown his ability, and I think there's even more in there in terms of targets down the field being open, and I think Tim's done a great job of designing those shots. So, want to get to those shots, and in order to get to those shots, we have to, as you say, possess the ball and accumulate snaps and stay on schedule. So that's going to start with a physical run game, and that run game is going to, again, channel through Diego.
When you're playing a quarterback like Jalen Milroe and a receiver like a Ryan Williams, what's the challenge? You played mobile quarterbacks before, but is there anything different that Jalen Milroe might offer that maybe you don't see a lot of?
I think you have to be careful sometimes overcompensating. I think sometimes the things that you design in an effort to neutralize a really good player like Jalen, you can end up kind of deviating from kind of what your base structure or your base identity is. I think what a player like Jalen challenges you with is to be at your very best within the fundamental technical aspects and the tactical aspects of the game you want to play. And so certainly we're gonna, every time the ball's snapped, there's opportunity for an explosive play. Where he is particularly good is, listen, if you don't account for him on the bypass zone reads, he's going to pull it and out leverage and outrun the defense. I mean, he's shown that against the very best in the country. So we're certainly not immune to that. We need to know exactly where the leverage points are and how to get to ball level and force him back inside. You can't always have an extra player for the quarterback, so there is an element where you're going to need to play with great block destruction and again, minimize the run lanes that he has and give pursuit time to catch up, because you can't survive a game against these guys keeping the safety split. You're going to have to close the middle too. The other area that he'll obviously hurt you is evading pass rush, and I think he's really good with like vertical escape lanes, and it's usually not to puncture you vertically. It's once he penetrates or pierces the pocket, he has a knack for circling the defense. So if you stack the ball in those situations, if you see guys collapsing from outside in on top of the football, he's gonna circle you and make you pay. And that, you saw that on Saturday night. So for us, again, this is not anything new, right? We talk about how we suffocate the ball. We talk about how we leverage the ball. We talk about how we vice the ball. You always should be working together to down the ball in space. Again, we're playing against an opponent that if we're not on top of those things that we've trained since the start of fall camp, he'll make you pay. But the kids know, the players know that, and we've talked about it. And there will be some things that we do that, within our identity that looks to limit him and his ability to be effective, but he's going to get his plays too. This isn't a game where you're going to sit there and think, we're going to not absorb yards. This comes down to explosive touchdowns and the ability to limit those and to force them to go the long, hard way. It's a really explosive offense.
All right, good stuff there from Clark Lee, the Vanderbilt head coach on Alabama. All right, that's going to wrap it up for hour number 1. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Hour number 2 is coming up. We'll get it started with Rudy Armand, the Rocket Man from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, and also Larry the Music Man is scheduled as well in hour number 2. We'll be back with the second hour of the Gary Harris Show. Stay with us.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles,
Here's Nick Cope.
Raiders receiver Davante Adams reportedly wants out of Las Vegas. ESPN reports today the Jets and the Saints are high on his wish list of destinations, each, of course, with a quarterback he knows, Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr. The report adds that the Chiefs are not expected to be an option. Meanwhile, The Athletic reports the Jets and Cowboys have touched base with the Raiders, who are said to be in no rush to make a move. In college football, Rivals reports Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers is back practicing and is on track to play after the bye next weekend against Oklahoma. Day one of the MLB postseason in the books. 3 road teams want to begin their respective series. The lone exception was in San Diego, where
.com or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
504. Again, that's 504. The code is 504.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K Payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld with you here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Busy first hour, and we're going to jump right back into the second hour with Drew DeArmond. The Rocket Man joins us from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. Scheduled to be with us on Tuesday, but he was Chase decided he wanted to do what I do. He did a little TV spot yesterday, and they showed up at the station right when we were scheduled to have him on, so we're going to have him on today. Good morning, Drew.
Morning, Gary. How are you?
How did you enjoy your TV segment?
It was good. It was the first one I've done in nearly a decade on the radio. Not really done a whole lot on the TV side, but a lot of interest in Kalen DeBoer and what he's doing to continue to set the standard in college football in Tuscaloosa. And of course, they're coming off of the biggest win of his early tenure as head coach, vanquishing the Georgia Bulldogs. And taking Kirby Smart's record to 1-6 against Alabama, and so Jalen Milroe, I know a huge front runner for the Heisman Trophy right now, and Alabama is ascended back to number 1 in the country for the first time since before the Tennessee game in 2022, and so a lot of interest abounding in Alabama football, as there always is, but certainly. With Kalen DeBoer trying to fill the shoes of the best to ever do it, certainly that's created a lot of buzz.
All right, you've had a little time to digest that game, remarkable football game. The way Alabama came out in that first quarter is as close to perfect football as you can play on both sides of the ball, and then scored again early in the second quarter, scoring touchdowns on their first 4 possessions. The defense had Carson Beck and the Georgia offense completely on their heels, and it's 28-0 with about 12 and a half minutes to go in the second quarter. But you knew it probably wasn't going to be that easy. Georgia's a proud program. Nobody else has beat them in 3 years other than Alabama. So they came back and tell of 2 halves, but that comeback allowed us to see Ryan Williams one more time do some magic and then also set up another freshman for a game-clinching interception with Xavier Brown. So remarkable football game, 3 days removed. Kind of sum it up for us.
Well, it was a tale of 2. It reminded me of a couple of Alabama-Georgia games, wrapped into one. It reminded me the start of the game reminded me of the first half of the blackout in 2008, which was Nick Saban's first win over the Georgia Bulldogs. They lost in overtime in Bryant-Denny Stadium in year 1 in 2007. Then turn around and build a 31-0 halftime lead in Athens when they were an underdog to Georgia. And then they turn around and they eased away, won 47-30. But certainly Georgia made some plays, make it competitive in the second half. But Alabama won that game. But it also kind of reminded me of last year's Alabama-Georgia clash in Atlanta for the SEC championship, where Alabama controlled the game in the first half. Georgia came out, made some adjustments in the third quarter, got back in it, and then Alabama, the last part of the fourth quarter, Jalen Milroe played really well. They were able to run the clock out and get the win. This time, Georgia came all the way back and made basically a 34-5 run to take a 1-point lead, 34-33, but we all know what happened. It was cold-blooded. Jalen Milroe with the back shoulder strike to Magic, a.k.a. Ryan Williams, and he made a catch and run to the ages to put Alabama back in the lead. Now, I don't think enough is being said about the 2-point conversion that Alabama was able to get because, again, once you get that 2-point conversion, it puts even more pressure on Georgia because they have to score and kick an extra point. I mean, if you're only up 5, they can score a touchdown and win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so Alabama got the 2-point conversion. They put pressure on Georgia. And Carson Beck, who battled his tail off, Alabama had him confused in the first half. He didn't play very well. He looked like Gino Torretta in 1992, but he continued to battle, got hot in the second half, threw for over 300 yards in the game. But the 4 turnovers ended up being the difference. And quite frankly, Georgia was very fortunate that Alabama had their 1 turnover, which was kind of a bad bounce in the first half at the end of the half, which cost Alabama at minimum 3 points, I think. It could have very well cost them 7. And then I thought the game really turned when Alabama got the strip sack from Clay Russaw, who sucked it up and it wasn't 100%, but was playing, a handful of snaps in the game, playing his role because they rotated a lot of guys at that wolf spot. But he created the sack and the turnover, and then Alabama wasn't able to get any points out of it because at that point it was still a 33-15 game.
Mm-hmm.
If Alabama scores to go up 40-15, I think it's really over because I thought being inside Bryant-Denny Stadium that if Alabama got to 40 points, Georgia was not going to win. But again, you got to credit Kirby and Georgia for continuing to battle. And I don't like Kirby Smart. I'm not a huge fan of some of the things that he did after he left Alabama and things of that nature. That's well documented. But I do respect him. I respect what he's built in Athens, and certainly his teams are much like his mentors and Nick Saban, and that they're very hard to knock out. I mean, they are going to fight you until the very last play of the game. They certainly did this time, and much like I thought after the game last year when I thought, even though they didn't get in the playoff, that Georgia was one of the top 4 teams, I think you saw 2 of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country, that play that were, locked up on Saturday night. Could they possibly play 2 more times? Yes. I think they very well could, especially when you consider the playoff. But I will say, Georgia's got some tough games left. Alabama, I think their schedule, Tennessee is far and away, I think their toughest test in a few weeks in Knoxville. But Tennessee, but Georgia, when you look at their schedule, Tennessee, and you look at them having to play Ole Miss, who, again, is still a very talented team, but on any given day could put together a game and beat someone. And then you got to play Texas as well. Georgia's still got quite a road to hoe, and they've had some injuries kind of crop up on them. But I do think they're still very, very talented. And, as I told you on your show last week, I expected it to be a great game. And every one of these Ali Frazier-type Titanic tilts since 2017 when Kirby and faced Alabama for the national championship, all of them but that 2021 SEC championship game have come down to the very end of the fourth quarter, and they've been huge Titanic, matchups. And I'll be honest, I've covered a lot of games now, nearly 10 years, inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, and I was honored to cover in my first year the 2015 LSU game where Derrick Henry and Leonard Fournette were probably the 2 front runners for the Heisman, and Derrick used that springboard for Alabama to win a national championship and for him to win a Heisman Trophy. And then that 2019 game of the century, those are probably the 2 most electric crowds I have been a part of until Saturday night. And that crowd Saturday night, especially in the fourth quarter, was as good as I've ever been a part of. And when Magic scored the touchdowns for Alabama to take the lead, it was pandemonium. And then when Xavier Brown, made a huge play in the end zone, I mean, you couldn't hear yourself think. It was a tremendous atmosphere, and it excites you for what could be for the rest of the season, because I think this Alabama team still got a lot of room to improve.
All right, Drew, huge recruiting weekend for Alabama. And hold off on basketball. We'll get to that. But for football, a lot of prospects in, a lot of commitments in. But haven't seen a ton of news coming out of the weekend as far as football recruiting. Anything that you can update us on?
Not too much, Gary. I mean, I definitely think the Ivan Taylor situation is one to watch, but he's still committed to Michigan. He's going to very likely visit for the in-state clash with Michigan and Michigan State. He's going to be in Ann Arbor. And, he didn't commit to visiting Alabama again, though he's got a very close and tight relationship with the coaching staff. So certainly, I think that it's very possible that he's going to commit to Alabama, to continue to heavily consider Alabama, and so I think he's one to watch. And he was committed, as we all know, to Notre Dame. Then he flipped to Michigan, and he's continued to show heavy interest in him, in Alabama. And I think the coaching staff's very interested in him because, again, I think they feel like when they lost Derek Smith, they don't have a safety commit in the class, so they're looking to add one. He's one they've always been very interested in. The one that I think is probably, and I know Aaron Hodges had a cryptic tweet yesterday or X post that looked like he was insinuating a flip. The guy that I would look closest toward, and, we all know that Naheem Alford from Parker is the top prospect in the state of Alabama this year. They beat Hoover last week 14-10. He's committed to Ohio State. He's flirted heavily with Auburn. We haven't heard a lot of buzz about him flipping to Alabama. I mean, he's visited Alabama on several occasions, but I just right now I wouldn't expect him in Tuscaloosa. I think a lot of what Alabama and their coaching staff has turned to, and Bo Linquist, is Mason Dunn, and Mason Dunn is a cornerback from Tupelo, Mississippi, who's committed to the Ole Miss Rebels. And I think the more and more you hear, it sounds like he's made multiple visits to Tuscaloosa. I think he was in town on Saturday. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's the one that might be the next flip or the next addition to the class, because I think the Alabama coaching staff, they don't have a lot of spots left, Gary. Now, we know that that 25 number is really that's not what it's measured by anymore. It's measured by the overall 85 and then how many you feel like you may lose to the transfer portal. But I think Mason Dunn is one that I would look for to potentially be the next addition to this recruiting class and flip from the Ole Miss Rebels.
And now Alabama turns the page, as we know in this league, good, bad, or indifferent, or the caliber opponent, doesn't matter. If it's an SEC game, you better be ready to go. And it's the short trip up to Nashville on Saturday afternoon in a stadium, First Bank Stadium, that'll have as many Alabama fans as Vanderbilt fans. I'm looking forward to the trip myself. But Josh Chapman's put out the rat traps in the facility because these kind of games can be trap games. If you don't have the week of preparation that you need and practice, you could wind up going up there and Vanderbilt's talented enough and good enough that if you're not ready to go, they can make a ball game out of it, Drew. So I think the key is just if Alabama takes care of its business this week, I think they'll win this game handily. What about you?
Well, I think I picked Alabama, 42-17. I think they're going to handle business. Diego Pavia is certainly a formidable challenge as a dual threat quarterback. He leads Vanderbilt in both passing and rushing. Eli Stowers, the transfer from New Mexico State, a really good tight end, so they've got to be ready for him. It's a much improved Vanderbilt team. We all know about Jerry Kill and his history with the University of Alabama, with Northern Illinois and Michael the Burner Turner, and really, Jerry's done a great job everywhere he's been. He did a great job at Mexico State last year, and leading them to a conference championship, beating Auburn soundly on the road. So certainly he's helped improve this Vanderbilt offense. But I think it's going to be tough for Vanderbilt to stop Alabama. I think Alabama is extremely athletic, extremely balanced. We may see more production out of the running backs this week, certainly, but I just am not sure that Vanderbilt's got enough difference makers. And like you said, Gary, I would go a step further. I don't think there'll be as many, it's not just as many. There will be more Alabama fans than Vanderbilt fans. I think it'll be 75% Crimson. I think there'll be a lot of Alabama fans traveling to Nashville. I'm excited about it because it'll be my first time covering a game in Nashville in the Music City. Certainly I tried to go 8 years ago when Vanderbilt made the disastrous mistake of taunting Alabama before they came up to Tuscaloosa and then proceeded to get an anvil dropped on their head. I don't think, they're going to be that stupid this time. and certainly they're going to hope Alabama overlooks Vanderbilt. But, this will be the next test for Kalen DeBoer. Now, last week was the biggest. Everybody was talking about, can he handle the SEC in a big national game, and can he beat Kirby Smart? Well, he certainly passed that test. Now it's going to be, you mentioned the rat traps. Can you keep your team focused? Can you have them prepared and ready to play on the road in an SEC environment, and continue to stay even keeled and perform to your capabilities in a game you should win and should win handily. But again, there's no guarantees. So just go back a couple weeks ago and watch that effort Vanderbilt had at Missouri.
That's true. Definitely. All right. A couple of people already called in and wanted me to ask you, and I was going to anyway, but basketball recruiting had a huge weekend too. And, they're already practicing for the upcoming season, but 3 of the top players, including the number 1 ranked player in the country, were in for the game. What do you have on basketball recruiting?
Well, certainly it's going to be a very interesting next few weeks. I mean, AJ DeMonsta, I still think BYU's a team to watch heavily. We'll see, coming up if Alabama made a big run at him. He was definitely there in Tuscaloosa. And the cool part was there were a lot of alumni, especially Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, even Javon Quinterly was there, Keon Ellis, a lot of guys that have been a lot to Alabama basketball. I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, they were all playing in the NBA. Natos went to see Brandon Miller, in training camp with the Charlotte Bobcats, I know it's called that, the Charlotte Hornets. They've gone back to being the Hornets, but yeah, I mean, certainly, but having Brandon in town, having Noah Clowney, having Keon and Javon and all those great players that Natos has already had in the program, having a lot of alumni on campus, I think was definitely a boon. I think Herb Jones was there as well. And so when you got A.J. DeMonsta, Malik Thomas, who's one of the better combo guards in the country. I know at one time he was considered a Connecticut lean. We'll see if that's still the case. A.J. basically visited several schools. I know he was in Chapel Hill at North Carolina the week before, but because of Preston Murphy's connection, Preston Murphy coached him in AAU basketball along with London Jemison, who's already a commitment to Alabama. So I would definitely think Alabama's going to be on the very short list for A.J. We'll see, what happens with the BYU situation. But these, I think recruitment can take a lot of turns. And then Braden Burris was there, too, from California. He's another guard. And then the best player in my state for the last 2 years, really, Caleb Holt, he was also in town. Now, he's transferred to Grayson, Georgia High School. But I think Alabama's still going to be in the mix with him to the end. And, I don't really know exactly where his recruitment stands right now because it's still got a long way to go because Holt's got 2 more years of high school. But as I've told people that have asked me, where can Caleb Holt go? He can go anywhere he wants. But I think Alabama's going to definitely be on that short list of schools, and I thought it was significant that they got him and DeMonsta, even though they're in different classes right now, on campus at the same time. And, again, tons of star power there. They've already got 2 really solid commitments in Amari Allen and certainly London Jemison. But I think Natos and staff would like to add 2 to 3 more and sign 5 players. And they'd love to sign them all early if possible come November. That's just right around the corner, as is the beginning of basketball practice, which just began on the college level. So both the ladies and, of course, Natos' men who have so many high-profile games coming up are getting ready to roll.
All right. Great stuff as always, Drew. Appreciate it. Let everybody know about Talking Ball and also where they can get you on the social media circuit.
Yeah, they can get me at Drew D 977 ESPN on X, and then our station is 977 ESPN. And you can connect with us at ESPN977thezone.com if you want to check out any of our content on our website or on our SoundCloud page at 97.7 The Zone, ESPN 97.7 The Zone. So we really appreciate everybody for having us on Tide 109 yet again on the Gary Harris Show. We weren't able to connect yesterday. Don't get too many opportunities on the TV side, so had to scratch that itch a little bit. But we certainly appreciate you having us on Wednesday, and certainly it's going to be an interesting afternoon on Saturday in Nashville, Tennessee. And as we said, a ton of basketball conversation going on, too, with Natos recruiting at such an elite national level.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, it is 10:22 on the Gary Harris Show. Houston Hyder Steam Carpet and Upholstery Cleaning has been in business for nearly 40 years. Local business that's been in business for nearly 40 years. That tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about Jackie Houston and his crew and the kind of work that they do. Holidays are right around the corner. Of course, football season is here. Parties. You want your house looking its best, and you can't have your house looking its best if your floors, whether it's carpet, whether it's hardwood, whether it's vinyl flooring, whatever it is, if the floors don't look good, the house doesn't look good. And he and his staff can take care of any needs that you have as far as work in your house, including your bathrooms with tile and grout cleaning. Everything is professionally handled. Free estimates. Call Houston Hyder Steam today, 205-553-9460. That's 205-553-9460. Or visit them at HoustonHyderSteam.com. Quality work you can stand on. Houston Hyder Steam Carpet and Upholstery Cleaning. All right, we'll be back with, I'm going to read some old app messages that I went through and pulled because people have been messaging us on the app, all our shows.
In Birmingham. Plus, don't miss our grand opening celebration Friday, October the 11th through Sunday, October 13th. And check us out at academy.com with free shipping on purchases over $25.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a warm afternoon. The high 85. Tonight fair with the low at 63. Tomorrow partially sunny. The high 86. Friday a mix of sun and clouds. A few isolated showers around. The high 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
26, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And I'm going to catch up on a few app messages because I'm bad about not checking these. And then sometimes they come into our emails and for all our shows, but some in specifically that have come in for Gary Harris Show the past few days that I'm going to catch up on because we appreciate you app messages on the app. And also, Chase, I'm going to start making sure I check the app for T-Town Menswear, T-Town Gallery, Alabama Sports Trivia, football trivia every Friday, too, because people have been messages in. But anyway, some messages that we've received over the last couple of days. Wide receiving blocking downfield, wide receivers blocking downfield. Great to see again. That's from Johnny G in Mobile. Johnny G also said, tell Digger to listen to another station if you're a Texas fan. Also from the kid, 79 in Mobile, Digger is a moron. Digger, they're getting after you. And Sling Blade Jeff needs to be put on his meds. Of course, that was Jeff from Tennessee who I had to dump the other day. That's from Big Red in Meade. Also, we had some trivia. People text in last week. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And then really nice message here from Justin in Tuscaloosa on the app. Gary, I just wanted to let you know that I love your show. It's always very informative and very interesting. Your show keeps me up to date with what's going on in the world of college football and the University of Alabama football. So again, I want to thank you for doing what you do. Also wanted to give you my prediction for this week's game against Georgia. Of course, obviously that's over, but let's see what he said. He said, I think Alabama is going to win this game. I feel like the score will be Bama 28 and Georgia 14. So he Bama won by 7, and he picked it by 14, so not bad. But anyway, wanted to catch you up on a few app messages, and we appreciate you messaging in on the Tide 109 app. All right, it's 10:28. We're going to take a timeout, come back with Larry the Music Man, talk about all the great Southern rock music that he's been a part of for, 50 years as a touring musician, as a session musician. It's been a fun segment. People are invited to call in as well on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. We'll be back with Larry next here on the Gary Harris Show.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow trucks, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if
one wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
right, 10:31. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Molly Hatchet, the classic Flirting with Disaster, brings us back in as we get ready for our Larry the Music Man segment. Larry, of course, longtime touring musician, session musician, 50 years or so in the Southern rock scene, and he joins us every Wednesday to talk about music, and we enjoy the segment. Good morning, Larry. How are you?
As Travis Tritt said, it's a great day to be alive. I'm telling you, and I appreciate what y'all doing over there for Georgia. I heard, about Talladega and
and former Northport Mayor Bobby Hernan. We'll try to get him. We'll try to call him, but he's busy. Yeah, but he's getting a drive together too to help out people. But you called in yesterday. How's recovery going there in South Georgia?
Well, let me tell you a funny side to this. I'm in Georgia country here. There's a lot of Alabama fans though. More than you would think. Somebody posted something. Alabama Power just got me cut on Roll Tide. They over here about in my neighborhood where I'm at now. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. So the Georgia fans got humbled, and she said, Roll Tide.
Love that. All right.
It's coming around, but I want to do a trivia question real quick for our callers.
Okay.
And see if this works out. We might do it more. In 1966, a Buck Owens song was recorded by English supergroup, and the drummer sang it. Who was the group and what was the drummer's name, if anybody knows that?
All right, call in 205-342-9904. I actually think I know it, but I'll hold off because obviously.
All right. Yeah, fact, you and me are not included.
Yeah, no, we're not included. But we already have Bryce ready to go with you. He loves the segment, so punch him through, Chase, because I could usually cut people off when I punch him through.
Yeah, let me catch him up.
All right, go ahead, Bryce. You're on with Larry Butler.
Hey, Larry, where you at in South Georgia?
All right, Bryce, I'll tell you. You know where Valdosta, Georgia is?
Yeah.
You know Valdosta State and the big football program there. Valdosta.
Right.
If you start in Valdosta and go north, you go to Tifton, Georgia, on interstate.
Right.
And you cut across to a town called Ocilla. That storm hit, devastated Valdosta, leveled it. Worse than we got, and then but the counties around me even got worse than we did. But I'm in southeastern Georgia in a little town called Ocilla. Where was the town you visited your friend that had Alzheimer's?
It was in Twin City, and I talked to his son yesterday because I texted him after the game. I didn't realize how bad they got hit because they got no response.
I played some shows in Twin City at a bar there years ago.
Yeah.
That's probably, I don't know, 60-something miles from me.
I was thinking Ocilla. What county is Ocilla in? I was trying to remember what county.
We're Irwin County.
Okay. Well, that's Emmanuel, which is the biggest county in Georgia.
I know where, yeah.
Anyway,
well, I'll tell you guys this. The phones are lighting up. I guess people want to try to answer Larry's trivia question. So, Bryce, go ahead, and if you got a comment or question in regards to music with Larry, go ahead. Let's have it so we get to some other people.
All right. Well, I don't know that trivia question, guys. But I just wanted to ask Larry where he's at. But yeah, he said Twin City looked like a war zone. It went through.
Well, it is, Bryce. And east of me, it gets worse. There's Douglas, Georgia's just level. That doesn't even have red lights.
All right, well, guys, I appreciate you letting me talk. But
yes, sir.
I think we'll take care of business in Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, and hey, I think Cowboys coming around. I didn't hear all of them yesterday, but I think he's coming around now.
Right,
seeing the light.
Maybe you got him squared away. All right, thank you, Bryce. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye. Let's see. We got people lined up let's take them in the order that they came in. It'll be Ground, Chuck, then RV, and then Tom. So punch Ground Chuck through, Chase. And hey, Ground Chuck, you're on with Larry Butler.
Yeah, I'm just acting naturally, man.
You better believe it. They ain't gonna put me in the movie.
All right, that was the song. Now, who?
Well, my name's Ringo Starr, and I play the drums.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Did a killer version. He still does it today in his All-Star show.
All-Star band. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to see him in his.
Hey, we're gonna have to figure out something to do for y'all on that because I got tons of trivia questions. Of course, Gary Gary can't play. Like I said, he's pretty up there.
Yeah, we'll tie
more
in.
than he wants to tell you.
We may tie in a little trivia contest here going forward, and maybe come up with a little gift or something. We'll work on that.
We'll do something.
So, Ground Chuck nailed it. So what?
Gary, you need to get Matt Coulter on this show with you and Larry, because Matt knows a lot about music too.
He does. He sure does. So yeah,
he's old TB.
Well, we're gonna make a trip over there. We got shut out of our GABA trip, so we may have to come to Tuscaloosa and work something out.
All right.
Well, I enjoyed the segment, and I always enjoy your show, Gary. So thank you.
Thank you, Ground Chuck. Good to hear from you. All right, let's punch RV through next, Chase. And we've already got it with Ringo Starr and Act Naturally, Buck Owens. But RV, what you got, man?
Hey, good morning. Just a couple of quick stories about two songs, Ramblin' Man and Jessica.
Okay.
Back in the DJ days for me, back in the 70s down in South Alabama, everybody had a CB radio back then.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. Truckers and everybody. Well, anyway, my CB handle was Ramblin' Man. That's how much that song affected me, and how much I loved that song, because it fit me as I was riding up and down the highway to be called Ramblin' Man.
Rolling down Highway 41. I rolled down that highway many times.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, so when I got married, my wife made me change my CB handle. She said, "You're not rambling anymore." So,
love it. I love it. That's what I like to hear, brother. I didn't know you were a DJ.
Yeah. Rob was. RV was a DJ. Yeah.
Well, you may have told me, but yes, sir. I love that.
Long history in the radio business. Long history.
You got a lot of promotional copy albums.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I was in radio for 43 years. I mean, 43.
Oh my Lord.
Long. Yeah. The other thing is, when we signed off our radio station, we went off the air at 10 o'clock at night. We had to go to bed down there in South Alabama. So anyway,
well, that's the way it was in the old days.
Yeah, we get to choose our own song to close out the night. Many nights I played Jessica as our closing song before we turned the transmitter off, because it was a great song to set you up in a really good mood. And that was just a tremendous song, and we used that as an instrumental closing many nights when we signed off in South Alabama.
Now, I like that. That's a good story.
Yes, sir.
That's a good story.
All right, RV. Appreciate you as always,
sir.
man. Thank you.
Great call. Take care.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to punch Tom through now, Chase. All right, Tom, you're on with Larry Butler now. Hang on. Let's try punching Tom through one more time, Chase. Let's see here. Hang on, Larry. I think Tom got hung up there a little bit with the.
Yeah, I got hung up a while ago. I got lost.
We lost him. Yeah, we lost him. He can call back in. So, but anyway, but we got those calls in. We got the trivia question answered, and Act Naturally is a great song. Boy, it really is. What's on your mind outside of the trivia? Any key points?
I wanted to start talking about the Layla. How Layla got started, and just a little bit of that. We can start with that because it may take next week to finish it. But, Dwayne Allman called Tom Dowd and said they were playing down in Miami. He knew Eric was recording preparations with Carl Radel, Jim Gordon, and Bobby Whitlock, the Dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
He says, we're playing in Miami. I want to meet Eric Clapton. So Tom Dowd brought Eric Clapton and company to hear the Allman Brothers, and that's what started the love affair between them two. They left there. This is documented from Willie Perkins, the longtime manager. They went to the studio and jammed to the wee hours of the morning. And you can buy that set. It's called the Layla Sessions. Dwayne and Clapton and Allman Sessions 1 and 2. It's mainly a jam. It had the Dominoes and some of the brothers. I think Barry and Butch Trucks went. I'm not sure. I know Butch, and they couldn't get away from each other. So that's how the Layla thing started. Dwayne Clapton asked him to record with him.
Okay.
Because he heard his slide playing live, and he thought, he said, my Lord, this is the guy that played on Hey Jude, you know?
Yeah.
That he'd already asked about. So they set the groundwork for that. Of course, you know, the thing with Clapton, the whole Layla concept was his love affair with George Harrison's wife, Patty Boyd.
Absolutely. That's what the whole song is
that
about.
album is heartbreaking. It's a crying album. And Dwayne was the only straight one that kept the album from going haywire, because Clapton was on heroin and they were cocaining so bad because he was grieving and had lost it. He met George Harrison in 1964 and he recorded My Sweet Lord, that great slide guitar on there. You know, he helped George record that album, and he was around Patty Boyd, and she was a looker, man. Woo.
Oh yeah, and Clapton, you know, fought it because of his friendship.
He
with
fought
Harrison.
it, man.
And it, like you said, it led to all kinds of grief. And for years, Clapton worried about his friend, but George Harrison was not a vindictive guy. And I remember seeing an interview with George Harrison. He's asking about Eric Clapton. He said, "Yeah, you know, we're still mates." He said, "I want her to be happy, and if she can't be with me, I'd just as sooner be with him." So
yeah, she shared their love.
Yeah.
She never quit loving George.
Yeah.
But, you know, he wrote Wonderful Tonight about her.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
And he was obsessed with that woman. Of course, they got married eventually. We'll get away from the recording of Layla, but you got to lay the groundwork, what was in Clapton's mind. But Jim Gordon, the crazy drummer that Tom talked about a month ago when we started this, or over a month, that knocked Rita Coolidge out, he co-wrote Layla. He was a genius.
Yeah. Well,
he was also a demon.
Speaking of geniuses, and because I've got to get out at 10:47, Larry.
I know,
so we got 4
I know.
minutes. But listen, Gil already texted in. I was going to ask you anyway about we lost a legend, Chris Christopherson, a Renaissance man. I mean, was a great athlete. And Gil wanted to know if you ever crossed paths with him. And, you know, he never was a great singer, but he knew how to sing what he could sing, and it was a terrific, incredible songwriter. Chris Christopherson story for us.
He was a great actor. I will. We'll go to this story later. I'm not going to tell all of it. My sister had a way. She passed. She had passed a month ago, and I didn't bring it up. But she was a beautiful girl, and she conned Christoph. She charmed him and went to his room.
Wow.
And they sat and drank all night with a bunch of people. Yeah, I opened for him.
Wow.
Then I'm gonna tell you where it was. I think it was Rock Island, Illinois. We were already up there, and they needed an opening band that could play a little bit of country. You know, I told you we were versatile. We could play country music.
So you could play it all.
But I'll remember what she told me, and it was almost like a love affair between them.
Wow.
And I don't mind saying it now because she told the story to everybody. But yeah, I know it. So we'll get into that later. But I'm sorry we missed Tom. I hope he can call back in because I was going to thank him. If it hadn't been for him with the Chuck Leavell story, I knew you loved music, but I don't know. I was at the hardware store when he called and y'all were talking about Chuck Leavell. And that's when I called, and that's when you and I clicked. So I want to thank the sheriff for that, for doing that, because that's what got me. And I said, I got to call Gary Harris. I knew you liked music, but I didn't know what in depth, how deep you were.
Well, it's led to an entire segment. Well, I'm sure Tom's listening. Yeah, he'll know that.
But I know we can run through time. I like talking with people.
Yeah,
but
usually
I want to keep the later.
I have a little more time, but I've got something in the next segment that I've got to hit. But
we'll continue with Layla next week.
Yeah, and Layla
in the studio.
That was a great Christopherson story that you had with your sister and Buster.
Well, it's been told for years. It was when he was in his heyday, and I always liked his acting. And then he was with the Highwayman, and
the Highwayman was
but he was a great actor.
Yeah, terrific actor.
He was a great actor.
And like I said, and when I say he wasn't a great singer, I didn't mean that disrespectfully, because he was an incredible songwriter.
No, he wasn't. He was awful. He was like, what's his name that Wimp likes? My mind was blank. The other writer that passed. They couldn't sing a lick, but boy, they could write.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And he wrote some of the classics. Me and Bobby McGee. It goes on and on.
Oh man, he made a living off that song.
What was a great Johnny Cash song he wrote too? Help Me Make It Through the Night.
Help Me Make It Through the Night, which Tom the Tommy, what was her name? Sammy Johns recorded it, made a big country hit on it.
Yeah, so he was just a gifted songwriter.
And then look what Joplin did with B and Bobby McGee, my Lord. She increased his royalties quite a bit.
And you, again, a true Renaissance man. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He was had been in the military, flown helicopters. Was a great athlete when he was growing up in California.
Yeah.
And I really always liked Chris Christopherson.
And I want to apologize real quick on that drum. I hadn't played drums in 4 years. I didn't mean to get on that rant. I'm going to tell you about that next week. I've got some younger musicians that I just felt like I needed to try to set straight, and I sent that to them, my little rant about paying in your Social Security and not leaving you. It's a different time now. I know you probably said, what the
No. But there's some stuff too that there's so much that I want to know, and it's hard to do it in part of a show. Maybe we'll have to somewhere down the line look at a podcast. But you've already talked about Rick Hall and Dwayne Allman, and one of these times I want to get into. You mentioned the Hey Jude sessions and Jerry Wexler, the head of Atlantic Records, who I think probably. Along with Rick Hall, had as much to do with Dwayne Allman.
Yeah, Jerry Wexler, then producer Tom Dowd. And that was the Dwayne Allman connection. They knew they had something.
Yeah,
they knew they had something.
We'll get into that too. All right, Larry, appreciate you. I mean, continue the cleanup and prayers for all the folks over there that went through that. I saw some of the pictures, man. It was complete devastation. You're right, just awful.
Yeah, it's the worst thing I've seen in a long time, and y'all been through it over there. But we appreciate what the state of Alabama's doing for Georgia.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Larry. All right, it's 10:48 here on the Gary Harris Show. We'll take a time out, and we'll be right back after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to continue taking your scores for Alabama Vanderbilt on the Southern Ohio score prediction contest. We'll also talk with Josh from College Football Nerds, Aaron Torres from Fox Sports, right here starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
This is going to be a long game.
You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a warm afternoon, the high 85. Tonight fair with the low at 63. Tomorrow partially sunny, the high 86. Friday, a mix of sun and clouds, a few isolated showers around, the high 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 77 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:51. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to visit for a couple of minutes with my pal Michael Hunger, the general manager of Who's Q and Brew in the Northport or in the Northridge Center in Tuscaloosa off Highway 82, a place that I love. I love the fact that Michael and the staff do so many different specials, but one of the big things they've got going right now is Wednesday night karaoke. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Gary. How are you doing?
Doing great, and we've talked about it, how much I love to sing, and I've got to work it out in my schedule where I can take off on a Wednesday night here and get over there and do some karaoke. But tell us about the karaoke night that you have every Wednesday.
Yes, sir. We've got Mission A coming by every Wednesday. We start at 7:30. The restaurant's still going to close at 9 like normal, but we're going to give people till 9:30 to, still rock on, finish the drinks, kind of just have a nice little midweek relaxation time.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And people love the chance to have the opportunity to perform. I'm going to get by and do it, I promise you. And I love the fact that you guys are doing it. And, but it's not just Wednesday night karaoke. I mean, you got live music on Monday nights. You got all kinds of specials. While I've got you, I want you to fill everybody in on just all the exciting things you got going on at Who's Q and Brew. And also, of course, on weekends for football, all the catering and the delivery, everything that you got happening.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we every day got a great lunch special. For example, today's Wednesday. Every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 4, we do our rib special. That's 4 baby back ribs, 2 sides, and a drink, tax included, for $12.
Calling my name.
And that's dine-in, carry-out, whatever you want to do. Like you said, we are delivering. You can order delivery through our website. That is whosbbq.com. Just place your order on there. It's serviced by DoorDash, but it's our prices. We don't have to mark anything up. We got a couple night specials. Tonight's wing night, so you can get 75-cent wings from 4 p.m. to close. $1 off drafts today and tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. We do our $5 burgers, as always. That's a half-pound, fresh, hand-pattied everyday burger available. You can add sides or toppers if you like, but $5 will just get you that burger. Excuse me. And then, like you said, for football, we got those bulk combos now, which I think are a really great deal, easy way to, keep it simple. Tell us how many people you're trying to feed, what meat and sides you're looking for. We'll get you set up for game day. I know game day, Alabama's on the road, so if you want to take something home, it's a perfect option for you. We've also got those tailgate packs, too. Those are a little bit bigger for, bigger groups of people. I think we say about 30 is what those will feed. So if you ever want, you can just call the store, 205-248-7069. Press 1 to speak to a bartender, and we'll get you set up for whatever you need.
And speaking of the games, folks, 17 TVs. So if you want to just go and eat in and watch the games, you can sit there at the bar. You can sit in booth. They've got tables. Beautiful, beautiful restaurant, too. I love the layout. If you haven't been to Who's Q and Brew, do yourself a favor. Get by there on Highway 82 at the Northridge Center and check them out for dinner or for lunch. All the great specials that Michael talked about. And, of course, tonight, karaoke night beginning at 7:30. Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. Have a good one.
All right. Appreciate Michael Hunger there from Who's Q and Brew. All right. It's 10:54. We got time. If you want to give us a call, squeeze in a phone call here before we close it out. 205-342-9904. All right. On Friday, I'll be back at Innisfree Irish Pub for Fridays at the Free beginning at 9 a.m. And, of course, also Friday, our T-Town menswear Bama trivia contest continues. And we're going to give away I know it's our last segment. Yeah, I just said we got time to squeeze in a quick phone call. Somebody wants to give us a ring just before the end of the show. Yeah, we got about 3 minutes left. But Chase reminded me, because it has been kind of hectic this morning. We've had a lot going on. But, we're going to close it out here in a minute. But I'll be there Friday for Friday at Free at Innisfree, and going to give away another great gift courtesy of T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery in the University Mall. All right, well, I got a couple minutes here. We heard from Clark Lee earlier, the Vanderbilt head coach, and I like this guy. He's an all-business football coach. I think he's a good football coach. Was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame before he came over to take the job at his alma mater at Vanderbilt, and they've done a good job this year. This is a team that just as could easily be 4-0 as 2-2. I mean, they let 2 games get away with Georgia State and with Missouri. And imagine this game, how different it would be perceived if Vanderbilt had won those 2 games. I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, if Vanderbilt had particularly beaten top 10 Missouri in Columbia, you all of a sudden win those 2 games and things are completely different. Alabama would still be favored and would still be expected to win the game, but it could be easily be a matchup of unbeatens. They beat Virginia Tech to start the season in overtime. That was a huge win. Then they blew out Alcorn State. Then they lost 36-32 at Georgia State. And then, of course, that heartbreaking 30-27 double overtime loss at Missouri. You win those 2 games, you're 4-0, you're ranked in the top 25. My point is, they're the same football team. The outcomes of those games make you feel differently about them, but they're the same football team. So had they had the result that they wanted and were 4-0, you would perceive them differently. But this is a very capable football team in the Vanderbilt Commodores. So Alabama will need to be ready to play Saturday afternoon up in Nashville, Tennessee. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We appreciate all of our guests today. Appreciate all of our great sponsors that make this show possible. Reminder, catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVUA 23. If you can't get us over the air right now on your provider, we're working hard on that, but you can always watch us online at WVUA23.com or download the WVUA 23 app. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.